Hi everyone, welcome to our weekly Q&A session. It's my pleasure to welcome here again our coach Alina. So Alina, how are you today?
Hi, Veronika. Thank you for inviting me again. I'm really excited to be a part of these Q&A sessions, and I'm doing well. Thank you. How about you?
Yeah, that's great. And also doing well. I really enjoyed the almost the summer weather. So we finally took out our bikes and we could go biking in our neighborhood. So yeah, I really do hope that this summer weather will be still going on.
Mhm.
And so I think we can start because we have already quite a few questions. But I would like to start with a really nice question that I have found on the channel. And so there is a question. I'm struggling with accepting the idea of there is nothing I can do to sleep better. I know it will help me, but I don't believe it. I always worry that I haven't done enough self help, that I haven't found the right video that will click with me. How do I get over this? I'm sorry, I don't have the author of this question, but if he or she is watching, I hope he will find himself in this question. So the word is yours, Ali.
Yeah, thanks for sharing this question, because I think this is one of the common um, kind of assumptions a person has when they hear about the overall direction, where what we are essentially trying to do is to realize that sleep doesn't require anything from us. But sometimes it can be kind of like taking from the perspective that, okay, there is no work to be done. There is absolutely how to say it, like there is no process that needs to take place. I just need to kind of like sit and do nothing. And in a way, this might create a little bit of friction within ourselves, because inside we might still feel the drive to keep looking for solution. And this drive comes from natural desire to feel good, to sleep well, and there's nothing wrong with that desire, right? So it helps really to start with acknowledging that yes, inside me there is a desire to get better, and it is perfectly normal desire, perfectly human desire. And with that we can start exploring, okay, but how does sleep actually work? Because it seems that from whatever I've tried so far, nothing has created a lasting result. Maybe I could, start using certain, let's say, supplement or a ritual, and maybe it can stay for a while, kind of like create an impression that it works. But after a while, fear comes back again, and I'm not sleeping again, right? So now we are starting to see that our efforts lead to the basically like to the same outcome. We still find ourselves worrying about sleep, not sleeping, and so on and so forth. So as the process goes on, and we kind of like eliminate all the kind of like ideas and ideas that don't work, we kind of come to a realization that actually sleep comes on its own terms, and I literally don't need to do anything. So this kind of like a statement starts to feel true when we've gone through the process of realizing that sleep has a passive nature. So for now, when we are still in the process, it makes total sense that right now there's still something in us trying to figure things out. We don't have to fight with that urge. We don't have to fight with the desire and try to suppress it. But what we can do is to keep learning about sleep, how we can actually embrace our experiences, and with time, that new perspective, when we realize that the idea of not having to do anything for sleep actually brings relief rather than pressure, or feeling of kind of like doom and no place to go. So I would say that this perspective will take time to kind of develop, and we don't have to insist that right now I should think that way. It's completely normal to explore explore avenues to see for ourselves that no matter what we do, sleep will always come on its own terms. But we need to experience that. We cannot kind of like shortcut it and just because we read this sentence, and this has to be true to us. I don't know if that makes sense, if that's your experience as well, Veronica.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I also like the explanation. Like we have this like two parts of of a brain, and the first part, there is the neocortex where there is the logical thinking. And first, we need to understand things from the logical point of view. We need to read about things. We need to understand, and only then we are able to change our behavior, our attitude, and our mindset. And with this change, we are able to really show our brain, our amygdala, that there is nothing to be afraid of. And when there is nothing to be afraid of, our brain will eventually catch up on this idea. But asking, like, really immediately after reading maybe a book or watching a few videos, like, okay, I understand everything, and right now I will sleep better. This is impossible. Our brain doesn't believe it yet. I can maybe give an example from like common life that my husband went, like it was maybe last year, he went for an extraction of a tooth, like
Mhm.
this number eight tooth, and they always like to cause problems. And after that, like maybe 1 or 2 months later, I had to go for an number for this tooth extraction, and he told me like, don't worry, you'll be fine, it's not a problem, it doesn't hurt, and so on. But I did not believe him, right? I still had this fear, and I was afraid, what if this is going to cause problems? I heard all the stories of other people that were causing the problem, that had terrible problems after tooth extraction. They had fevers, it wasn't healing well, and I had this all the time in my mind. And so with all these kind of threats, our brains work um, like, unless I don't experience it, I don't believe it, right? So you have to experience it by yourself, like, hey, after a terrible night, I still could have a good day. I still could manage to even get out of a sickness, because this was something I was talking about with one of my clients. I'm afraid I will not get better because I am sick and I suffer from insomnia. This is of course another topic to talk about, but right now, um, our brains and our bodies are super survival machines, and they always work to make us survive. And this kind of trust we need to learn, and it takes some time. But with the knowledge and awareness, it will click at some point, I believe. So right. Okay, I think we can move to a question from Happy Chahar. Hi, Happy Chahar. And also, please tell me, as fear is a safe emotion and it can be felt, then how can I be okay with its results like stomach issues, hair fall, cortisol rise? This shows my brain that fear is not safe, not safe to feel. Thank you. Uh, okay, okay. So, what are your thoughts, Ali?
Yeah, I would say that it's normal that when we think about embracing fear, we will come up with a lot of ideas and thoughts that will kind of try to persuade us to not feel the fear. But here's
Mhm.
the thing, that in immediate sense, we are absolutely capable of withstanding any emotion. And I would say that it helps to revisit even maybe connection between feeling the fear now and then having some maybe worries about some future potential, like health scares or anything like that, because things might not be as connected as we originally think they are. I would say that suppressed emotions long term might have to do something with, let's say, we also have some chronic issues, but the key here is suppressed. What we are here doing is actually uncovering, making them more conscious, allowing ourselves to live through that. We are not suppressing them. It is actually running away from the fear is what can create this kind of like um, consistent, this under the radar type of strain on ourselves that in long term of course might bring us to feeling maybe tired or whatever that might be, right? But when we start looking into our fears, we are actually helping ourselves to overcome them. So I would say that in an immediate sense, like right now, if there is fear in me, it is safe to actually look at it and feel it, embrace it, and not trying to kind of like fix ourselves, fix it. Just allow it to stay here, create space for it. And then what we also notice is that even though right now this fear might feel very acute, very strong, it will not have the same intensity forever, because our feelings, they're kind of like transitory. Basically, their change in their intensity. Feelings might be replaced. Maybe at first it is fear, then it is anger, maybe then there's it's sadness, then maybe it's some sort of like relief, and then fear again, and so on and so forth. So our emotional state is never kind of cemented, like it's not fixed. We are going through transformations and allowing that stream of feelings to pass through us without being afraid in the moment. That's what can help us to overcome them long term. But running away from fear just because there is an idea that it might actually cause something in the future is actually puts us in a situation when we cannot we cannot work with it, because without being open to experience that, then it's really hard to actually to overcome it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. You brought a really good point, because we so often tend to suppress our emotions and we are too afraid to feel them, to experience them. But on the other hand, when we just approach these emotions with curiosity and maybe like cutting them down into pieces. Okay, what does my fear consist of? It consists of chest pain. It consists of not in a stomach, these or stomach issues like Bichahar mentioned, and all other symptoms. Then it doesn't feel so scary. And as you say, they will transform over time or they change their intensity. At one moment, we can feel like we cannot handle this at all. But in the next moment, it could be completely different. This is just these kind of like three things that I'm feeling right now. Okay, I can handle this, right? So I hope we have answered your questions, Happy Chahar. And we have another question from Exceptional Gamers. Can you please give me some advice on how to move past this fear? Also, if true, what can I expect? We have touched on the topic of fear. And do you have anything to add, Ali?
I think just moving past this fear means being willing to get in touch with it, just to see, as you said, like what it consists of.
Yeah.
There is no way around that. At least I haven't found that.
Hmm.
I tried many ways to find solution to my problem without getting in touch with it, but it never led me to anything like any breakthroughs. It's actually when I was willing to go and to meet my fear and just stay with it, just see like, okay, what's going on there. That's when things started to unfold. I might have come up with some new insights that wouldn't occur if I wasn't kind of like if I wasn't embracing this emotion. So I would say also allow it time for this process, because fear will not leave us just because we, once we learn about something, right, and realize, oh, actually I'm safe, fear will not leave that easy. The brain is going to push back a lot. So it's reasonable to expect that there's going to be kind of like back and forth process where we might start discovering that we are safe and we might feel a little bit of like more at ease, and then the fear comes back with some new theory. Oh, but what if this, right? So it's completely normal to have this sort of dynamic. With time and with more willingness to embrace whatever happens on the journey, the periods of time when our fear is kind of like active gets shorter, and the periods of this kind of feeling more at ease gets kind of like more extended.
Mhm.
Then maybe fear might get transformed into other emotions. Maybe at first it can be very visceral, very kind of panicky feeling, but then at some point it might turn into, as I said earlier, like anger. Let's say I'm not afraid of this, but I'm really annoyed by this situation, which is a great sign. To me, it's like when emotion changes from fear to anger. To me, it's like, okay, this feeling is being processed, and now there is fear, right? Now there is anger. There is no more fear, and even that anger, with time, when accepted and embraced, eventually it leads us to more and more kind of like coming to terms and more peaceful state. But there is a process that takes place, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. This is a great point, and I'll just add from my experience, like when I really was afraid just to face my emotions, face my fear, there still was this kind of tension that I felt like all the time. And I didn't understand where this is coming from, that I didn't feel it really in my body, the fear, but there was this tension that, or maybe the sense of doom that something bad is going to happen. And maybe I was afraid, I was avoiding things to do. Like I was afraid like to splash my face with water. What if I wake myself up more,
Yeah.
right? And when we don't vocalize these fears, when we don't vocalize what exactly we are afraid of, what we are feeling, then it's really, really hard to face it and to overcome it. And I really like the point, like you mentioned, that the emotions can transform. When we feel fear at the beginning, it can transform into sadness, frustration, anger, and each of them need to be faced and acknowledged. And this is the only way. There is not a way around fear.
Yeah,
So,
actually, I'm just like listening to an audiobook, and it's like a normal book. It's called Letting Go, and
mhm,
I don't know why I haven't discovered it earlier. I believe that the author is David Hawkins or
mhm,
something like this. I don't know, but this book is exactly about like the mechanism of letting go and exactly this feeling emotions, and I find it so right now. I feel like it would be so much more helpful like if I would found it in the moments when I struggle, because it's actually really gets to the point of like what it means to be kind of like to let go and to surrender to the feeling and just let it stay there.
mhm,
And I find it actually so true that willingness to get in touch with emotions allows them to process faster.
hmm. So then you will tell me the name of the book, and I will write it
Yeah,
under the video,
I
so
will.
it might be helpful for the others. Okay, now we have a question from Marco Kononen. Can toxic shame be a reason for insomnia? I honestly haven't came across the term toxic shame, but I believe that insomnia is fear of not sleeping. That's basically how we view it here. Um, it doesn't matter what's the reason for it. What is the kind of the trigger? The always what matters is our reaction to it. It's how we face the sleepless nights, how we face our emotions, how we face our thoughts. So, what are
Yeah,
your
I
opinions?
also I'm not sure what exactly is meant by toxic shame, because I feel like recently, like at least like in the sources that I meet the word toxic, it feels like it's just like people are just giving like name to anything that's like unwanted is like toxic, and everything is toxic,
Mhm,
which creates already this resistance to the feeling itself, because oh, it's toxic, I don't want that, right?
mhm,
In a sense, like resistance to the feeling often perpetuates the feeling, but that's just like kind of like a side note. But I agree with you that of course when we are, let's say, feeling, let's say we are ruminating about something that happened in the past, and we are kind of like feel ashamed of that, of course it can disrupt sleep, right? But what creates a self-perpetuating problem is not that feeling original that created sleep disruption, but now how we think about sleep itself. Like now we are building strategies that try to control the outcome, and those strategies kind of fail us because sleep cannot be controlled. So therefore I would say like it makes total sense if there is a, let's say, issue with, let's say, shame, which kind of like expands onto our whole life, and we feel like this needs to be addressed. It's completely okay to address it as a kind of like alongside the process of letting go of the fear of wakefulness, but not trying to kind of connect those two processes, meaning that I cannot recover from insomnia until I sort out all my toxic shame issue,
mhm,
because then it becomes this. It becomes kind of like a trap for us. We feel pressure to overcome this issue in order to sleep, but then once, even if we resolve that, the pressure to sleep might still be there. We might realize like, okay, I no longer have that feeling. I don't have this shame issue, so I must be sleeping. And because there is this kind of I must be sleeping, it's not okay for me to be awake. That can actually create more wakefulness, and then we might start like questioning like what did it work, maybe it didn't work, and then we are kind of like a brain invites us to go into more rabbit holes. But once we understand that yes, we can address any sort of like emotional issues that we are having in life in general, and parallelly we can still work on addressing the fear of wakefulness, and not connecting those two processes together, making them kind of codependent or interdependent, then we can basically move without creating unnecessary rabbit holes there. So that's what I would like. That's what comes to my mind.
Yeah,
But I hope,
perfect.
yeah, hope
Thank you
this
so
helps.
much. Okay. And right, we have a question from Veronika. Hi, could you please address the theme of general anxiety when recovering from insomnia? Now I sleep good and I'm no longer afraid of insomnia, but my brain gets anxious about random things. I think I can start, and it's very common when we are no longer of insomnia or our sleep issues. Then our brain tries to pick new things and topics to be afraid of. Like just one example from our insomnia immunity program, we had a client who was no longer afraid of sleep and insomnia, but she started to have a random thoughts. What if what if I will be mugged in the middle of the night, or what if I will be robbed, or what if she said like she has never in her life experienced this kind of thoughts, like that felt almost like life threatening. And this only shows like, okay, there is nothing to worry about regarding or related to sleep, but now so I can show you other things that you could be worried about, because when we experience insomnia, we spend most of our time in anxiety and fear. And when this feeling is no more present anymore, we feel kind of emptiness. And sometimes we can feel like something is missing, and or something is not right. Is it okay for me to not feel anxiety? And sometimes even people are afraid of not feeling anxiety. And this is not right. And when your brain sees like, okay, this is not safe to not feel anxiety, so let's give you this kind of ideas, you know. And when you have like, so your brain shows you, okay, but you still can be afraid of this. You can still worry about that. And basically, the response is always the same. See it as this is a thought, an idea, and it's only up to you how you will face it, how you will treat it, and your brain learns from you. And if you treat a thought like, "What if I will be mocked on the street?" Like, this is just a thought, and it might happen, it might not, but really excessively worrying about this thought, it will not not really like help me, or it doesn't make sense, because we can worry about like many various kinds of things, but this is not helpful in any way. But only acknowledging this as this is just a thought, just an anxious thought, my brain is giving me ideas to worry about. And sometimes these ideas bring also the emotions, like this anxiety, like this it shows physically in our bodies. And we again, when we just acknowledge it, okay, I feel not in a stomach, I feel heavy breathing, I have palpitations. When we again teach our brain that this is not important, we are in fact safe, our brain will learn that it's okay to have even this kind of thoughts. I still can send Veronika these kind of thoughts, but um, when she shows me, and repeatedly, because our brains needs many repetitions to really understand things, she will, your brain will understand that you don't have to, that it will not eventually send these kind of ideas over and over again. So, and also it's very common, like when we experience something so emotionally draining like insomnia is, it will take some time for us to recover, to heal our nervous system. And we get triggered very, very easily. Our nervous system feels like a happy trigger. I have this term from Coach Michelle, like any small thing that in the past wouldn't bother us just brings the whole and strong emotional reaction. So, but again, treating it like a normal thing, acknowledging and like really knowing what and why is happening is really the key to overcome even the general anxiety. So, uh, anything to add, or we can continue?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you're spot on. One analogy that came to my mind is like that we can see that it's not really about sleep itself. Like sleep can be already improved, but our brain keeps going, right? So I would say
Yeah.
like fear has like if we think about fear as a certain mechanism,
Mhm.
let's say like a formula, right? That has like variable, like it has a placeholder.
Mhm.
The brain can insert any placeholder. Let's say if it's not about sleep, it's about whatever, being robbed. If it's not about that, it's about like me, whatever, feeling awkward in some social situations or whatever that is, right? So we don't have to solve each equation, each formula. We can just understand the formula itself and just observe it. Exactly as you said, like when there is like a thought, we can realize it's a part of that mechanism, and acknowledging that mechanism and not and seeing it for what it is, that can actually help us break this chain of kind of like repeating basically the same behavior but just in a different context, and help us get out of that or break that loop by simply observing like, okay, my brain right now is in the anxious mode. Okay, I'm gonna allow it. I cannot prevent my brain from not doing this, so I'm just gonna let it do its job while I make myself comfortable through it. So that only that I wanted to add.
Yeah, thank you so much. And wow, we have quite a few questions, and yeah, we can go one by one. We have a question from Dipendra Shah.
Mhm.
Hey, I have been suffering from poor sleep quality and delayed onset of sleep from 6 years. I have tried several sleep aids, but they all disturb my sleep quality more. Let me look if there is. Ah, okay. Here is another comment. I follow your old tips, which help me far better than any medicine. I sleep more and dream a lot, but very light and unrestful sleep.
Mhm.
I have trapped in insomnia loop. How can I escape from it? So this is a typical case of hypersleep. So what are your thoughts, Ali?
Yeah, I would say that it's nice first of all, like to hear that this person already found that that when we are trying so hard to get a certain outcome, then sleep gets kind of like choppier and more, how to say, more disrupted. But I would say it also it is valid for the quality of sleep, because just like we cannot control when and how we fall asleep or how long we sleep, we also cannot control exactly of what quality our sleep is. And in a sense, like fearing light sleep produces more light sleep, uh, which is why it makes sense to revisit our perception and relationship with that type of sleep as well, and see how we can befriend that type of sleep as well. For sure, it might not be an ideal form of sleep, but the more we are kind of fixating on the idea, like I have to make my sleep deep, we are going to find ourselves constantly checking in with ourselves whether this deep sleep is happening. And of course, during when we are actually like in sleep, we are not aware of how deep it is. It is just after the fact that we can conclude, okay, this sleep was of this quality and that quality, but we can never actually kind of like ensure that this is exactly the sleep quality we are going to get. But worrying about it is what's more likely to make our sleep more kind of like shallow. So it's again like the way out of this paradox is also paradoxical, because we need to show ourselves that even light sleep is not a threat to us. It might not be our favorite kind, but it is also okay to experience. And when we feel at peace with that type of sleep as well, this is when our body's defense mechanism starts to kind of like go down, and allowing a more this satisfactory, more kind of like deeper sleep to happen on its own without force. So
Yeah, thank you so much. And we have quite a few comments from one person, and we can go briefly through it. And we have questions basically from Dean Suleimanovic. Hi, Dean. Dear Veronika and Alina, thank you for everything. You're welcome. I'm already in the 5th month of 4 weeks since I started CBTI, as well as follow your methods. It's not over yet, but there is always some progress. Last time you gave me such good advice, and I have to boast that I've been sleeping in bed for several weeks now, then moving to the sofa. I still have sleep arousal, speed bumps, but I always experience and tolerate them differently during the day, mostly lighter, and there are shifts. Last week I decided to travel a bit longer. I went to Croatia first and then to my hometown Bihać. On Sunday, when I returned to Graz, I slept for 7 hours. With waking up, of course, sleep arousal. Yesterday, I relaxed in the afternoon and I was so sleepy in the afternoon that I thought this was the end of insomnia. However, it was a false belief. My question is the following. First, since I'm tired when I wake up at night to do something else, is it okay that I experience befriending wakefulness by lying relaxed with my eyes open and resting like that? I try to keep my eyes open to be awake. Can you can you comment on this question, Ali?
mhm. Okay, so first of all, I'm glad to hear that Dean is seeing like so much improvement in how they feel and perceive their experiences. It's amazing, like really great work. I would say it's completely normal that when our hyperarousal disappears, at first it might feel unusual, which may kind of like trigger us to feel hyperarousal again, because it feels like, oh my god, like this is something new, and let's make sure that we kind of like hold on to this outcome, right? So which is why it's always it helps to accept that after like improvements, there's going to be a period when things go kind of like bumpy afterwards. So it's like you know having some like ripple effect, and then just letting it kind of like come down on its own. So normalizing any sort of experience during this time definitely helps. And I would say that as for the befriending wakefulness part, is it okay to just just relax in my bed with eyes open? Absolutely okay. Whatever feels natural, non-pressuring, what feels like brings us more ease to the night. That's usually the right path for us. It can change from night to night, so it doesn't mean that every night we have to stick to this, but just exploring like what feels more natural. So definitely I would not consider this to be like something like that shouldn't be. I know that CBTI kind of like tries to persuade us that we have to leave bed instantly when we cannot sleep, or at least like after 20 minutes or so. I don't find that advice particularly helpful. I mean, it can be helpful in some occasions to leave bed when we feel particularly frustrated, but it doesn't have to be done always. Sometimes we just want to relax in our bed and don't experience any pressure on us to sleep or behave in a certain way, and that can create a really nice background for sleep to eventually come naturally to us. So, but there is a second question, right?
There is a second question, yes, and it's I always hear about how important it is for a person to start working. I stopped it for a while. Would it be a problem if I accepted a shift job if I had to wake up before the end of the sleep window at 6 a.m. in order to get to work, or to come from the second shift an hour or two after the start of the sleep window? How did it affect me, considering that I feel a great improvement? Uh, okay, I will pause here because there is a wall of text, but I can answer this, and I think this is completely okay because at the beginning you have mentioned the CBTI, and they are quite strict with the rules. Like you have to go to sleep at this time, and you have to get up at this time. We do have a structure in our day is really helpful, but we don't have to stick to it religiously. And when you just gently shift yourself the attention from sleep, then it's much easier because when I was also for a very very long time in this kind of mindset that everything I was doing, I did it. I was filtering through the lenses of sleep. What this thing that I will do will affect my sleep later. And so when you shift gently from this mindset, like, okay, how this waking up before the end of my sleep window will affect me, and when you basically lean towards living your life regardless of how it will affect your sleep, which basically you are, I believe, you are doing before your insomnia, and we want to become the sleepers or the people we were before our insomnia and not completely consumed every day by the sleep topic. This is the most helpful thing. So see for yourself if you want to do this job, if you like to do this job, and um, then you will get the answer. Okay, this is something that I want to do, and I will just and your sleep will become a kind of like a byproduct of living your life. So yeah, I hope I make sense. And do you have any thoughts, Ali?
No, I just wanted to add that if we think about any shift workers,
Yes.
not all of them actually struggle with their sleep. Their schedule for sleep might be different, but it doesn't mean that there is suffering. I mean, think about surgeons, medical, professions, flight attendants, all sorts of professions might include that we simply cannot observe the usual kind of like sleep times, but it doesn't necessarily have to create suffering. What creates suffering, that's what we call insomnia, this
Mhm.
constant thinking and an obsession over sleep topic, trying hard to protect it. When that is gone, we are free to do anything. We are free to choose any sort of like, if shift work makes sense to us, this is something what we would like to do. Perfect. It doesn't stand in the way of recovery at all. In fact, like following our passion, following what matters to us, can facilitate the recovery process, because now we have an opportunity to directly face the fear and see, okay, so how can I face the fear when I actually need to be awake at certain
Mhm.
time, like at night, right? So that could, looking at it as an opportunity rather than an obstacle can help.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And I would just add that when insomnia is this kind of like a vicious cycle, when our days and nights are completely consumed with a sleep topic, we can change it to a virtuous cycle when our days and nights are basically filled with the topic we are passionate about. And this is when we shift this attention from away from sleep. The sleep happens as byproduct of this wonderful shift. So I would like to wrap up now, and thank you very much for coming, Alina, and thank you everyone who posted the questions. And I will see you next time. Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everyone.